our agenda for today. So what you're actually going to get out of today. And this is going to be interactive. We want to make sure we're talking to you. Feel free to drop questions in the chat. Emilia and Josh will help us out there as well. But the first thing you're going to get out of today is, number one, using frameworks with ChatGPT. So this is kind of a lesser known way of getting really amazing results out of ChatGPT. It's actually my favorite thing that I've learned to do with it. And the second thing is we're going to take you through a live demonstration of applying the framework technique to build a process. And I'm going to use a customer success specific example. And at the end, you'll get a cheat sheet of the prompts that I used today. So you can do this yourself on your own. And one thing I just want to call out that's not really going to be included today is like a ChatGPT 101. And if I'm assuming at this point, we're all kind of aware and know a little bit about it. But if that's something that you're looking for, that's not really what we're going to cover today. And just by way of introductions, so I'm Mickey Powell. I'm one of the co-founders of Update.ai. I formerly ran CS operations at Zora. But enough about me. I actually want to pass it over to my co-host, Emilia Dianzica.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm so excited about this huge turnout. And I'm so sorry, my dog is begging for attention, so you're gonna have to bear with him in my laps here. But really excited to be here. I think as a consultant, I'm the founder of Growth Molecules. We're a customer success advisory firm. It's really interesting to see how ChatGPT is being used, and clients coming to us saying, well, can we just use this to build all our processes and scale? And it is an interesting question. I also teach at St. Mary's College of California. I'm an adjunct customer marketing MBA professor there. And a lot of professors are very upset about this platform and worried about how they're going to manage it. And as they're marking papers. So I obviously was very curious when Mickey and Josh invited me to be part of this. I'm also a very proud board advisor of Update.ai and excited that you're all here today. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Emilia. So really quick, I just want to plug Update.ai. So Update.ai, what we do is we take the pain out of customer meetings by providing ChatGPT powered smart summaries. So we actually integrate with Zoom, who is an investor of ours, and there's no meeting bot, there's no Hey Siri, and there's no extra work to get an automatic summary of your customer calls. It's actually working here today. So there is going to be a summary of this call here today, automatically produced by Update.ai, powered by ChatGPT. And I'm actually going to quickly drop in the chat a link if you'd like to sign up. It is actually free. So go ahead, give it a shot, sign up. It's free for you guys to use. It's built by customer success folks like Josh and I for customer success folks like you. So before we get started, I just want to do a quick poll. Give me 1 second to actually load this up. I just want to know, have you guys used ChatGPT to build or create something at work? Trying to get it, I play around with it every single day. And I'm trying to understand, hey, what are you guys doing with it? If anything, how much? Really interesting. Looks like almost about 10%. Yeah, 10% of you guys are using it really frequently. About 43% are using it maybe a few times, and about 45% have never used it at work.
I am so curious to know why people aren't using it or playing with it. If you haven't tried it yet, it's a bit addictive. It's fascinating. Try asking it some silly questions. You'll be amazed at what they come back with.
It's definitely fun. It's fun, definitely, to play around with it. Awesome. I'm going to end that poll. But yeah, it looks like about 13% use it all the time, 44 and 44 are the others. And I'll share those results with you. All right. So let me close that out. So let's get started. So using frameworks with ChatGPT. So in the countless hours that I have played with ChatGPT, I actually noticed it was really amazing, and it got really amazing results when you gave it when you actually used a framework with a specific context, and that's what unlocked its potential. Now, a specific context would be like customer success, right? Executive sponsor change, renewals, things like that. But I want to make sure we're on the same page about what an established framework is. So there's thousands of frameworks that we all use daily. We all use like to-do lists or the 5 W's, who, what, when, where, why, or even budgets. Those are all established frameworks that we're all really used to. But what makes ChatGPT work better when you use a framework? Well, it's because these frameworks are well documented online. And that's actually where ChatGPT was trained. It was trained on the internet, on like Wikipedia and other pieces of text. So it knows all about these frameworks. It has a lot of practice with them. So put another way is that ChatGPT has been trained extensively on established frameworks. And there's ChatGPT right there, training all day, every day. So if you don't believe me, check out what this guy, Chase Demon, says. He's got 183,000 followers on LinkedIn, and he posted a couple of months back on what he believes are the top 5 ways to use ChatGPT. And as you can see, in every single one, he's calling out framework. So he has 183,000 followers. He posted on the internet. Must be true, right? So today we're going to use an established framework, which is ChatGPT's strength, plus a specific context like customer success, which that's my strength, and for my customer success folks on the call, that's your strength as well, and that's what's going to lead to better results. So how does this apply to customer success? That's what I care about. For all my customer success peeps on the call, that's what you care about. And you know that if you work in any customer success org, the things are constantly changing. You need to build processes, you need to move as fast as possible, you need to be really thorough as things happen. But if you miss something when you're building a process, it can be really frustrating and it can lead to more problems. So when I ran customer success operations at Zora, when it came to building processes, I was like, oh, am I thorough, or do I try to move really fast? And I usually went to be thorough. Now, it would be frustrating at times for me or my colleagues, but I felt it was better to go slow and get it right the first time. But ChatGPT has really changed everything, and I can use this amazing technology, and all of you can, to build really thorough processes way faster than ever before. But before we jump in, we actually need a framework. We need something to help build processes. We need to give ChatGPT a framework. So we're going to use SciPoc from Six Sigma. And don't worry, you don't need to memorize this. All you need to know is that this is a process optimization framework. It was actually invented for car manufacturing decades ago. For anybody who knows Six Sigma, it's been around for a really long time. And it stands for suppliers, inputs, process, outputs, and customers. Now, let me break that down, give you an actual example that you know a lot more about. So when you're making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, it's a pretty simple process that we've all done many times before. You gather your ingredients, you apply the peanut butter, you apply jelly, you assemble, and enjoy. SciPoc, what it does is it breaks down everything you need to make that sandwich into buckets. So the suppliers, the grocery store. The inputs, that's the knife, the jelly, the peanut butter, the bread, the plate. You have your 5-step process above. the output is the sandwich itself. That's what the process produces. And the customer is this adorable little girl, or you, if you're hungry and you want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So now that you know a little bit about the framework we're going to use, which is SIPOC, and we have our specific context, we're going to use an executive sponsor change. Now let's get some results. So the scenario we're going to tackle today that I'm going to do live in ChatGPT is building an executive sponsor change process. So let's pretend that my boss comes to me and says, hey, we need a first draft of this process as soon as possible. And included in that draft needs to be the process steps. We need email templates. We need a meeting agenda for when we get the new executive on the phone. And we need a training plan for the CSMs to teach them how to use this process. Now, in the past, if I did nothing else for a couple of days, this would probably take me about 16 hours of work between all of those different steps. So let me show you how ChatGPT can build this for us way faster. So I'm jumping over to ChatGPT, just make sure you guys can now see I'm in ChatGPT, right? Good. So, you know, when you guys start cooking, you got to preheat the oven, right? So that's actually what I'm going to do first, is I'm going to start with a prompt that is designed to get ChatGPT in the right frame of mind, introducing it to the framework that I want. And I actually use these little hooks at the end of my prompts to output its format in something that's more useful and visually appealing to me. So it's going to go through here. It's going to say to break down what is SIPOC in Six Sigma. And again, as I mentioned, like, hey, if you want to make this more visually appealing, just add this little thing to the end of your prompts, output in Markdown with headings and subheadings. Emilia, I know you probably love this because you want it to be visually appealing. Your time in your MBA course, and so, okay, great. Now ChatGPT knows what SIPOC is. I'm kind of getting into the frame of mind, and for those that don't know, ChatGPT essentially has memory. It can kind of remember what you've been talking about, and that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm setting it up. I'm priming it for the next part of the conversation. So then the next step is I want to prime it with our specific context. So we're talking about an executive sponsor change. And I tell it, hey, specifically, I'm a CSM, and the executive sponsor change is when my customer changes. So it's starting to produce a bunch of stuff. And remember, like, this is generative AI. I can't control exactly what it puts back. And yes, I have practiced this. I've done this many, many times preparing for today's webinar, and it's always a little bit different, which is simultaneously fun and at times like just, hey, I don't know what's coming. It's like a slot machine. So it talks about the impact and mitigating risks and building the relationships, all things that are important. And for those that don't know about like an executive sponsor change and how that can impact customer success, that is really a situation where somebody really important who can make decisions about your relationship leaves and is replaced with somebody, and you've got to get back on the same page with them about what matters to them. So, all right, we've done the preheating, oven's ready to go. Now let's produce the first step of our process. So let me copy and paste in our next prompt. So I wanted to use SIPOC to create a process for dealing with an executive sponsor change. So it starts with suppliers. So where are we getting what we need to run this process? Where does that come from? So we're probably going to get some notification from the customer organization. Maybe we have a champion there. Maybe we see LinkedIn changing. And then we might need some information from the previous executive sponsor. Maybe we've met with them before and they have their goals, their things that matter to them, the initiatives that matter to the company. We need to make sure we have all of that information because we're going to have to bring that up in the next conversation with the new executive sponsor. And it talks about the inputs. Okay, so we need a communication plan, we need the project documentation, whether you're keeping this in a spreadsheet or in a tool like Gainsight or Catalyst or client success. And it even brings up stakeholder mapping. This is something that you might have already done and you need to bring into this process. And it gives us the process steps. So first, identify the change, review project goals, assess the impact of the change. Maybe this new person has never used your tool before or anything like it, so you know that there's some risk there. Communicate with the various stakeholders. This is where we want to get in contact with the new executive. Update project documentation. Maybe you're needing to go a different direction, and build relationships. So you get your new executive sponsor and other key stakeholders. And at the end, it tells you, here's the outputs, here's the plans, the budgets, the projects, everything that needs to change in association with this executive sponsor change. This is going to be the guiding document and tool for your customer success managers and the team as they're taking on an executive sponsor change. So I don't know about you, but I think I like things a little bit more visually appealing, a little simple. So I'm actually going to ask ChatGPT to produce the process steps, but do it in a spreadsheet format, which I think is a fun little trick that it can do. So if we were going to build like a process document, we could throw this at the very top. So it's really clear and simple, like these are the steps you're going to do. Or if you have a tool like Gainsight that produces like a playbook, these would be the steps of the playbook. But my boss said that we also need email templates and we got to get in touch with that executive sponsor. So we know that executives are busy people. They write in a certain way. Emilia, do you like really long, fluffy, meandering emails? Does that get your attention?
You can ask my team the answer to that one, but I rarely read them. I just send them right back. Give me the headline. What do you want? Agreed.
So one of the things that a lot of you probably are already aware of is that ChatGPT is really good at writing emails. So when I am writing for like an executive, for instance, I like to include things like be concise and direct. I'll even add things like keep your email under 100 words, like try to make it short, or you can even tighten it up more. And because I know that I'm building this for a customer success team, and I know that we want the executive to have the ability to self-schedule. We want to introduce ourselves. We also want to try to set up the value of our tool and our relationship. I've included things like include the calendar link for the CSM as a token, so that if we plug it into a tool, that token is already available. Or make the CTA a request to meet. Like that's the ask, right? We want to meet with that executive. So make sure to include that there. I even include like use a before and after framework. So like, hey, before your company used our tool, they were doing this, and then after they used that, trying to build up some value, because now you're kind of reselling to that executive. We know that that's going to be more effective for the CSM. And oh, wait, we still need to notify our internal team, right? So let's get that template going.
Mickey, I just want to jump in here and I'll share the example of, for any of you who have interns, I always love bringing interns on and giving them an opportunity to get real life experiences. So I currently have 2 interns working with me right now, and I'm just imagining how if they had this type of framework, it would help them with any project I'm assigning them to deliver better outputs, instead of just marking something in a project management platform completed with a bunch of links for me to go through. I'm wishing, and this happened on a plane last night, I got a bunch of their work back, and I'm thinking, why is there no framework to explain to me what they just spent all this time on? They just sent me a bunch of stuff that I'm now supposed to cipher through. So even as you're bringing on new employees, I think this can be so powerful to give them a framework of like, here's the project and here's how I expect it back. Because if it's their first or second job. They don't know what to expect. I'll never forget my first job. My manager, Casey, said, Emilia, you have to put a subject line in your emails. You can't just send me an email. But if it's your first job, you may not necessarily know all of these things. So really powerful to help coach your team as well.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's, I come from CS operations, but I was a customer success manager to start my career, and I worked at a Series A company. There wasn't a lot of processes. I built a lot of the processes. That's actually how I learned that I liked doing this. So I agree that as you scale, as you grow, having a framework for your team is going to allow them to focus where they're really strong. And that's what makes me so excited about ChatGPT every single day, is that it's strong in areas that I'm not particularly strong, like writing a bunch of copy really fast. I'm good at editing. I can edit down and say, I don't like that. But that's something I get really, really excited about, how this is going to how it's already made my life easier and more effective. So we need a message for the internal team. We need to let them know about the change. And I also want to include in that, like, hey, actions I've taken. This is my way of kind of directing, coaching the CSMs on what they should include, while also communicating with the rest of the team so they are up to speed on what the plan is. So let's pretend that executive, they got our email, they're on board to meet. My experience, and Emilia, you probably agree, is that a meeting without an agenda is a recipe for disaster. So we know that we need a meeting agenda. And we know we probably need to overview like the capabilities of our tool, what their current objectives are, because you probably have like a success plan or something like that. And we need to make sure that we're also figuring out what matters to this executive. What are their goals? What are their metrics? So we have our agenda. I even asked ChatGPT to include some discovery questions for the customer success manager to give them an idea of what are the things you should be asking to figure out the priorities of the executive. So it came up with, hey, what are the top 3 objectives you'd like to achieve with this project? This is a good example of like ChatGPT not being perfect. I would probably change project to like our relationship or our specific tool. Timeline for achieving these, that's great. We want to always be time bound in goals and objectives, and different stakeholders, departments. Again, this is an area where ChatGPT, I think they swung and missed on that 3rd question. There's probably some better questions that we can include there. And if you don't like it, you can always hit that regenerate response button, which I use a lot to kind of give a better or different take on something. Now, we've had that meeting. ChatGPT itself isn't going to help you in that direct meeting, but if you had Update.ai, it would help you take the notes of that meeting. And we need to write a follow-up email. That's one of the templates we need for this process for the customer success manager. So again, I'm going to write a follow-up email. I want to keep it concise and direct. I want to keep it under 100 words. I'm using another framework here, start, stop, keep. Feel free to throw your hand up if you've heard of that before, but basically a framework to be like, hey, I've heard you. I've heard you, and this is what I think we should do, we shouldn't do, and what we're going to start doing. Connor, yeah, a lot of times I will rewrite my requests or the prompts. And actually for this webinar here today, I've actually practiced and tested these prompts to like tune it to get the right or like the more predictable and useful outcome. So now we have our follow-up email. The last big step, and this is potentially the biggest of all of them, is we have to train our CSMs on this process. I don't know if any of you have ever created training before. I have. It takes a ton of work. Estimates are that for every 1 hour of content, you need about 40 hours of development. So if you're going to do a 1 hour training for your team, it can take upwards of 40 hours to develop that content. So I'm actually going to use a framework called Webb's Depth of Knowledge And again, not something you need to memorize, but basically Webb's depth of knowledge is just like, hey, how well do you know it? Can you just recall it, or can you apply it to novel scenarios? There's varying levels of understanding. So now that I'm giving ChatGPT a framework, I can anticipate and it'll get better results for creating this plan. And this is going to give me my training objectives. So, hey, I want the CSMs, after they do this training, they can recall the key steps involved with the executive sponsor change. They can understand the importance of building relationships with key stakeholders, and they can identify potential risks associated with the executive sponsor change. And it gives me like the activities. So we're going to review the SIPOC process. We're going to do a group discussion. We're going to role play. These are all things that you guys have all probably participated in either as a student or a teacher, that ChatGPT generated in seconds what would normally take me hours to write out, to make sure I got the right learning objectives, the right like leveling in terms of like start with something simple and build on it. And this was one of, the being able to create a training plan super fast was particularly insightful for me because I've tried and struggled with it for a long time. So that's that training plan. You can take this and start to specify it. If we wanted to go deeper, we can even ask it to create that role play for us for the customer success managers as they're learning this process. So I'm happy to take questions, but actually that's the end of the live demonstration. So we created a process. We use SIPOC to do that. We have our email templates. We have a meeting agenda, a training plan. And I think that took me about less than 10 minutes. As I was even talking through you, it would have been faster, obviously, if I was just doing it myself and not explaining as I go. And this just, I can't overstate this, guys. Like, this blows me away. And to kind of recap, because I think there's some important things, is number one, use frameworks. Now, you don't have to use SIPOC. There's other process building frameworks, but the important takeaway is use frameworks when you're working with ChatGPT. The second thing is this live demonstration showing you how to apply it. So we built process, we built the assets to go with it, we built a training plan all in one thread because ChatGPT has memory, so we can refer back. We can refer back to the previous messages, which is important, right? Because I want it to know what we're talking about, how we're talking about it. And then I told you guys you're going to get a cheat sheet of today's prompts. Let me actually grab that link and I'm going to throw it in the chat for you.
Mickey, while you're doing that, there's a question from Sonia. There's quite a few questions, but this was really good. Before you start or stop sharing your screen, excuse me, can you add a last step to ask ChatGPT to aggregate all the outcomes into a recap email or even deck to send for approval? Sonia, I think you want someone to do your job today. I love it. And Josh is recommending you try it, Mickey.
Okay, so we want, who's it for? Is it for the boss?
Yeah, let's say it's for the boss that asked you to do it.
Okay, let's give it a shot. I love it. Using everything above, create a, let's say 10 slide, or 10 slide might be too much. Let's say 5 slides or slide, create a 5 slide presentation for my boss on, let's see, what the process is, what the assets are, email templates, process steps, training plan, and the timeline, and let's say success criteria. This might not be great, but I'm down to try.
What a
Yeah, I think
great question, Sonia. Looks like some great stuff coming.
So success criteria, smooth transition, minimal disruption on project timeline and budget. Yeah, I don't think that was quite what you were asking for, right, Sonia?
It definitely has some helpful information in there, but more, we started this with an initial ask from the boss with these 4 or 5 different parts. We worked through them one by one within the same chat. And I was curious if there, was a hack to, okay, now take all of this that you created for me and make it presentable to the person that asked me to do it.
Let's try again.
Okay. One day, maybe it'll be able to design the slides too. That'd be cool.
I bet it will, actually, to be honest, and probably sooner than we're all thinking. There's like image generation AI, and that's pretty fun. So like you can imagine that it could probably do some of that. Okay, I'm a CSM. My boss asked me to create these processes and assets. They want an update on the entire project. Take all that you've produced and give me a slide, or give me bullets that I can turn into slides. Let's try that. Yeah, I think to get what you're asking for, I think I would probably, again, need to give it a better framework and maybe even an example of like, hey, like, slide 1 is going to be this, slide 2 is going to be that.
Got it. Thanks for trying.
I'll also add that customer success, yes, it's like 25 years old or something, but it's still so new compared to all of the assets that have been written for sales. Even if you think of like all the sales books or product, etc. And when I've done some searches in this platform for very specific customer success related outcomes I'm seeking to achieve, the data on the internet is still sparse. So it really is gathering information from there. I think that impacts the output, and it will get better as we produce more content. So
And go ahead, Emilia.
I was just going to say there's so many great questions in the chat. I don't know if we have time to go a few more.
Let's do it. I think we should, yeah.
Great. So some people have already asked about the pricing and is it worth the $20? We did get an answer in the chat, but Mickey, do you have a take on whether it's worth the extra $20 a month?
I personally think it's well worth it. It has easily saved me hours of time. Somebody had mentioned in the chat about, like, does this make you feel more like an editor? Like, instead of being like the writer, you becoming the editor. 100%. I struggle with like the blank page. If I need to make something, write something, and there's a blank page in front of me, sometimes I really struggle to just get going. And ChatGPT takes that entirely out of the equation. And yeah, not everything it produces is great. But the fact that I can get to something that I can edit down, rearrange, add, expand on so much faster than was ever possible before is well worth the $20. Today I was using 3.5. So I wasn't actually using ChatGPT 4. And that's because ChatGPT 4, even though it's stronger in its like reasoning and complexity, it's much slower in producing the text. So as I would be talking to you guys, it would just take way too long to produce the actual content for today. But yeah, my take is like it's well worth the $20. And I signed up as soon as you could. So I've been paying since day one.
I love the answer that someone gave earlier. I just have to quickly find it, but it's Rob. He says 3.5 seems to hallucinate more than 4. So great reason to buy it. Any
Oh,
more-
interesting. Yeah.
Any more questions that we want to give Mickey?
While you're thinking about it, I also just want to let you all know that I am actually writing an ebook for ChatGPT prompts for customer success. And I will be sending you all a free copy when it's ready, hopefully some point in the next month. And yeah, that'll just be free as a thank you for all of you. So you don't need to do anything. I'll email that to you. It'll come from Mickey at Update.ai.
Also, if you want to meet Mickey, well, we'll both be at Pulse this May, so you can chat and nerd out on this platform in person as well.
Yeah, I would also love to connect with you all on LinkedIn. I'm gonna drop that in the chat. And if you didn't get the cheat sheet, the link that I dropped in earlier, and you want it, please feel free to reach out to me. Happy to send it again. Thank you, everybody. I hope it was well worth the time.